Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this first episode of the Boxed In podcast. My name is Garrity and
And I'm Trevor Sombrano.
And we're going to come to you with a show every week. This is our very first episode. We were going to go over the world of boxing week by week. We'll interview some fighters. We will talk about a little bit of our opinions.
Pop culture, probably.
Yeah.
Politics.
Sure.
Food.
We'll figure it
whatever's on our mind for the most part.
Trevor has a little bit of an insight because he was a trainer. You want to talk a little bit about that?
I trained as a second assistant to Jesse Reed, Hall of Fame trainer. 23 world champions. Roger Mayweather being one of them. Johnny Tapia, Hector Camacho. And also had a chance to work with Joe Goosen, another Hall of Fame trainer who had 17 world champions. Although that was short-lived and had a fighter fight for a title for the heavyweight championship of the world. Although he didn't win.
And Jesse Reed is a hopeful guest.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have Jesse come through.
I think he'd be an amazing individual.
Amazing stories. Definitely got to get him in here.
To have them. Yeah. Very good. So we're also going to do a little bit of a topical news show. So we'd like to talk about the fights coming up.
Yeah.
This weekend we got Kovalev and Alvarez 2.
Yeah, I think that's a great fight. Sort of get to see whether or not Kovalev still has it. Especially after the Ward losses, and then eventually ended up losing to Alvarez, and whether or not he's not shot. I mean,
yeah.
What's your take on it? I know that you watched the film.
I rewatched it last night, and it pumped me up for this weekend. Although when this episode releases, unfortunately, when this episode releases, you'll have already seen the fight because the fight will be over. I think we're going to release this early next week. But I'm really excited to see it, and if this might be a test for Kovalev, is this his last?
I think us talking about it being a test might sort of not be factual. This might be the end of his career.
That's what I meant. Testing is this? I don't mean test of like a up and comer.
The test or his death. No, right?
I'm saying, does he fight again after this, or is he not? Because now would be a good time to hang it up. I think if you
all these things
don't still have it.
We've sort of have heard about Kovalev through the last couple of years, specifically his relationship with John David Jackson, and some of him running afoul with his trainers and not listening and being stubborn. And, even knowing how that he took his first loss with Andre Ward and sort of not taking responsibility as a fighter that he did lose. And, watching his character sort of evolve. And I think that when you look at Kovalev, he's this guy that's this perfect villain. And, that he's sort of everything that you want to assign with Russia.
He's Ivan Drago, yeah.
He's definitely Ivan Drago. And,
I took a picture with him in Carson.
Oh, really?
One time, yeah, when I was.
How was he? How was the interaction?
There was zero.
Yeah. I will take a photo.
Exactly. Just classic fight fan going up, taking a photo, doing the classic pose of finger out. That's it.
But so when
everyone does it, generic as hell.
A lot of people don't know this, but when you talk about taking a photo with a fighter, you're sort of showing him respect by pointing the finger at him.
Yeah, like I love this guy.
Yeah. So versus a lot of you guys are out there making a fist with the other fighder, which is, hey, listen, don't make a fist with another fighter. I may have done that. I may have taken a fist. But you had a professional fight.
This was like the week before my pro debut, I think.
Yeah.
So I had yet to.
Yeah. So you have the
ability,
the credibility.
Oh, thanks.
To go out there and make a fist with another fighter because you fought underneath the lights.
Okay.
But I'm always fascinated by civilians that are out there that are everyday fight fans that are making they got the big fist with the fighter, especially with a guy like Kovalev who just to bring this up, Kovalev killed somebody in the ring. You aware of this?
I was not.
Yeah. So I shouldn't laugh.
In the amateur days.
No, as a pro.
I had no idea about this.
He killed somebody in the ring, and to know that Kovalev had that
that ability to keep going after you've killed somebody.
Which is I can't remember the was it Emil that killed Parrott? Who's Emil? Maybe we gotta ask.
Maybe we gotta ask our producer for the first one.
Producer about this. Daniel Kid Parrott. I want to say Emil MEILE.
What's the question?
He killed somebody in the ring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we'll get back to it. But they said that he was never the same. It's not. I want to say it's Emil Griffith. But
Oh yeah, I've heard that story. Yeah.
Emil
Griffith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garcia.
Is that who he killed in the ring? Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah,
it'd be a good time to quit if that ever.
And even looking at other things that have sort of happened. Not to want to bring these things up, but Oh gosh, who's the Dominican fighter?
Oh no, excuse me. His name is Roman Simukov.
Roman Simukov. Yeah, the Dominican fighter right now that's in the coma. Oh god, and this is what's sort of sad about boxing, that you can't.
Colon.
Yeah,
Pritchard
Colon.
Colon.
Yeah.
He was good too.
There's a great fighter.
That freaked me out. There was a series of a couple of months where some big name prospects sustained some bad injuries, and that made me realize, like, Garrity, you're not a big name prospect. And you're trying to mess around in this sport where Pritchard Colon is in a coma, and
he's 10
times better than you. You know, like he's
accolades that come along with
exactly. Like he's a signed guy. You're a scrub. Like, are you kidding me? That made me rethink. Yeah. Another one. It was sad when it happened. It was I think he's doing better now though, which is good. But
Adonis Stevenson.
Here the local guy Daniel Franco.
Oh yeah, God,
he was
Franco's another guy. Too.
Yeah, he had sustained 2 big knockout injuries right after another. I think. Actually, that first one, I was calling that fight. That was a Steve Bass show.
Oh, okay. I remember
Chris
this.
Chris Martin fought him, and he was outboxing him, and then a late knockout, and it was kind of a surprise win for the old veteran.
And
Chris Martin.
I take a deep sigh because you're asking these young men or young women that are involved in boxing to get underneath the lights and do something that most people cannot do, which is to risk their lives every time.
Risk their life for your entertainment.
Are you not entertained, right?
Yeah.
And even with Adonis Stevenson, who recently was in a coma, and I believe he's out of the coma now. When you're looking at a guy like that who, obviously has had a successful career.
The guy who put him in his coma, Alexander, whatever his last name is, the Ukrainian guy.
Yeah.
He was on the same card on my pro debut, actually.
Oh,
yeah. I shared a locker room with that guy.
So this is here we are starting about we started our first podcast about the realities of boxing.
Yeah.
And
great episode. I'm glad you're watching. Mom, grandma, grandpa.
I hope it's not getting too dark and morose for you guys.
Exactly.
We got some good fights on the horizon though. We obviously got Mikey Garcia fighting Earl Spence. Or depending on who you're talking about, Earl Spence, fighting Mikey Garcia.
Right,
who's going to be the A side? Who's going to put the fights in Dallas, right? So obviously they're going to show up for Earl.
They're both signed to PBC, right?
They're both with Al Heyman. They're both with the PBC.
So give me your opinion. You have a little bit more of an expert opinion on style matchups.
So just being honest, I don't think that the odds are in line. I heard that it was 4-1, or it might have been as bad as 8-1 as far as Earl being the favorite. The Garcia family has had a long history of upsets and bringing fighters to come win. And when they say that they see something that Earl's doing, we shouldn't discount it automatically and not think that they're coming there not prepared and not to have the best Mikey Garcia there. I think that as far as Mikey Garcia is as a fighter, he doesn't make a lot of agreements, and what I mean by agreements is that
you gotta explain that because a lot of people won't know this. So this is kind of
just an
insider knowledge from Trevor's.
Yeah, an idea of an agreement is if typically if you're watching solo boxeo or you're watching boxeo azteca or some Latino fighters fight and they decide that they're going to fight on each other on the inside. There's both an agreement that they're going to settle down on the inside with each other and let their hands go. We especially growing up in Southern California gyms, you see this at Maywood Boxing Club.
That was the way I was trained to.
Yeah, this is a very sort of thing that you come across all the time. I say that Mikey Garcia doesn't make agreements because when you pressure Mikey Garcia, there's an automatic sort of he makes an automatic adjustment, depending on your distance. So if you have a fighter example that step towards him, Mikey will step back or step to the side. He's always keeping himself within the range that he wants to work.
So the agreement being that if you want to engage close, the other fighter says, "Okay, my hands are back. My hands are right up here, and I'm coming in close, and we'll be forehead to forehead."
His fun, a lot of people when they're calling his fights, I've heard Paulie Martinelli say before about Mikey Garcia has incredible fundamentals. When Mikey Garcia adjusts with his when you're coming in on him, he's adjusting in a place where he can let his hands go, and he's always dangerous. And he's also always making small adjustments with his ankles and so forth. And depending on knowing what side he wants to work from, whether it's on the, with his left hook or if he wants to work from his right side. So it's a very smart fight. I'm giving, just to go out there, if I had to pick a fighter, I probably would go with Earl because of the size and the speed and the youth. But I'm also going to say, just to be honest with you, if we're just talking about craft-wise and as far as a fighter's developed, I think that Mikey Garcia is just as much developed, if not more so, than Earl Spence. And that's, so really what it's coming down to is athleticism and size. Yeah. And I would love to have a conversation if anybody disagrees with me. Earl does a lot of great things. I'm not saying that Earl doesn't do a lot of great things, but there's something about that Mikey Garcia, and I'm saying his craft might be the equalizer. And traditionally,
that's
it has been. So.
That's the more exciting outcome that I'm looking for.
Would
be a Mikey Garcia rally on the equalizer, that change there.
It's
but
I'm gonna
betting
have a bias
betting money is on
It's on Earl. I have a bias. Mikey's a Southern California guy. He's from Oxnard. He's in Moreno Valley. You want the Robert Garcia. You want Robert Garcia.
And you gotta love him for continuously going up in weight, trying to take on bigger fighters. I love the Terry's on.
You're talking about a guy that understands legacy. Yeah. So you can have a fighter that's been settled down in his division his whole life. I can't help but not to pick on Triple G. But Triple G stayed in his division.
You love picking on Triple G.
Yeah, he stayed in his division his whole career. If he was the alpha male of the alpha males, he would have gone out there and, fought in different weight divisions. And it's hard not to mention a Shane Mosley or Floyd Mayweather, an Oscar De La Hoya, a Manny Pacquiao, a Miguel Cotto comes to mind. Guys that were out there that were conquering different divisions. And I think that we're seeing that right now with Canelo, although... The belt at 168.
Yeah,
but he had the right look.
Conquered. He conquered 154, and then he conquered 155 when he didn't want to fight anyway at 160 at Canelo weight. And then I suppose he finally has. I suppose he has conquered middleweight.
You're saying Canelo?
I don't know about super middleweight. I don't know if that's quite conquered.
I don't think
the
that he wants,
when he beat that Fielding, Rocky Fielding guy.
Rocky Fielding. Yeah, we didn't know who he was until he was fighting Canelo. At least I didn't know he was. Right.
It's not a bad pay. Not
is
a
he
bad
Irish?
Living.
Is he Irish?
English.
So he's not one of your countrymen.
No. And he was like grinning on the way down. He was just, hey, I'm getting paid.
Well, I'm sure he made some pretty good money.
Yeah.
Like not to, and
I hope so. We putting your life on the line. You better.
Yeah, it's another thing to say about Canelo too, about his development is they've completely developed Canelo's craft. And to go out there and look that good against a guy that's 168, and he's got a fight that's coming up with Danny Jacobs, and
excited for that. Yeah.
Yes, another exciting fight. So we got two fighters. Danny Jacobs to me is a throwback fighter, and what I mean by throwback fighter is that he does a lot of things that the old timers did. He's very developed in his craft. He goes about boxing in a very cerebral sort of way. Here's another guy that went the distance with Triple G. In my opinion, had a very close fight with Triple G.
I thought you thought he won, right?
Yeah, arguably. I don't. It's just to preface it that I do have a bias with Triple G, right?
Yeah, right.
So, but I thought that he did good enough where I thought it should have been a draw. But once we're talking about crafts, we're talking, and then you're talking about Canelo, talking about the Triple G matchup that they had. I thought that Canelo, anybody that tells me that Triple G won the last fight, we could sit down or I could do a video analysis with them and show them that.
Yeah, you have to do it for me because I think I got a little too emotional and was thinking that Triple G won that. And then if you break it down for me and take the excitement away.
Listen, it's hard.
I've already been schooled by one of my old coaches on this exact lesson here.
It's hard not to. Did you ever
I got behind it. I was excited.
Did you play Mike Tyson's knockout as a kid? Probably not. You're too young.
Do you know how old I am?
Yeah. No. But there's this. We're raised with Rocky. We're raised with this idea of the puncher, and so it's easy for us to get behind Triple G. And Triple G just
if you saw yourself as the puncher,
as you saw yourself, but don't get me wrong, Triple G,
you root for that guy.
Just to clarify, Triple G has some shit with him, and that's to say that the guy has great skills. He's got great craft. He knows exactly what it is that he's doing, and he's not so one-dimensional. I just wish that, the fight that we all wish that would have happened, I think, in the boxing community, is if Triple G would have went up and fought Andre Ward at 168. But let's be real here.
No one talks about that.
No, and Abel Sanchez wanted, as Triple G's trainer, he didn't want anything to do with it. Triple G certainly was putting all the 154s in his mouth. saying he would go out there and fight Floyd. He'd go out, want to fight Canelo. He said that he'd even potentially go down to 147, which I just thought was crazy.
To be fair, though, for the time at the time where Triple G was finally getting notoriety and finally getting checks, for much of those few years, there wasn't a ton of activity from Andre Ward. The timing wasn't perfect for them to be. Yeah. When you said that, like, I don't think that's a nice matchup that we wish we could have seen. But I don't think anyone was at the time a few years ago was saying, why aren't these two guys fighting each other? I don't really think the cards were set.
There was a very small time window that was probably half a year to 9 months. Ward, being who Ward is, goes and gets a title at 175. And even when we're talking about Andre Ward being retired, in the back of my mind, I always think that there's a possibility that Ward comes out as a cruiserweight, or if he gets the right look, not the heavyweights that we're seeing now, because they're all 6'6" and above. But if a heavyweight presents himself that gets a title that's 6 foot to 6'3", and Ward's in a position where, he could, he's expressed fighting and getting a heavyweight title. But it's the same thing when you think about y'all must have forgot when we think of Roy Jones Jr. when he fought John Ruiz, and he got a heavyweight title. It was a perfect. Does
it do anything to Ward's legacy? To only come back for a heavyweight title.
If he wins the heavyweight title?
No, to only come back under the given opportunity that it's the right size of a guy.
No, I mean, listen.
I'm hearing this from you, but I never thought this through, and I don't necessarily think that. I mean, it's something he would need to do, but
the general boxing public isn't going to talk about this sort of stuff, and I think it comes down to schematics. It's sort of like at the end of the day, when these guys, especially when we're talking about Hall of Fame fighters, specifically Andre Ward is going to be a Hall of Fame fighter, and we just talked about Canelo, who no doubt will be first round Hall of Fame. When it says that a guy got a title at 154 and a guy got a title at 160 and a guy got a title at 168 with Canelo, or with Ward having a title at 68 and 75, and if he ever does make a comeback at either cruiserweight or heavyweight, cruiserweight. Let's be honest.
He could light the cruiserweight division up, man. We've been waiting for.
He could probably come.
Cruiserweight division. I've always thought this coolest name.
Right.
The least history, the least amount of excitement. We've
not a lot of money in there.
Only thing I could think of, if I could think of who's a cruiserweight that I've loved and watched is Steve Cunningham, and he's. Oh yeah. But he's been other weights too. So yeah.
Who's
there's a guy I love that doesn't.
Michael Hunter might be at cruiserweight, right? That's what I heard. Mike Hunter.
I don't know.
Did he fight Usyk at?
I thought he was
No, it was heavyweight, but I think that there's rumors he might go down to cruiserweight, and he would be an exciting cruiserweight. To watch, especially I watched Mike Hunter during the Olympic trials.
Wait, I have to eat my words. Is Usyk a cruiserweight?
What's so?
Or is he a light heavyweight? He's a cruiserweight.
Cruiserweight,
I have to eat my.
But
so the fighter of the year. I just had to eat that.
It's hard.
The fighter of the year this year was a cruiserweight.
Yeah. It's just really hard to keep up. Especially, but to talk about Usyk's another guy too. I mean, he's a scary, scary man. He's got scary, but he's got an incredible skill set, incredible craft, incredible dedication, and I expect a lot out of him. And I think that
he's been fun to watch. I mean,
he's been fun to watch. The thing that with the Mikey Spence, getting back to Mikey Spence, that obviously as everybody's talking about Snack's Victor Conte's involvement with Mikey Garcia.
Yeah, you gotta bring that on. Well, I know a lot less than you on that topic, but
boxing is a forgiving sport.
Right.
And so, to say the least, right? When I think about Victor Conte, when I think about Shane Mosley and the clear when Shane Mosley had fought Oscar De La Hoya, I want to say it was for his first fight. And then, with Balco, which was a laboratory that was happening in the Bay Area.
Remind people this is the Barry Bonds era.
This is the Barry Bonds. This is when everybody's getting popped for performance enhancing drugs, for PEDs.
So Victor Conte comes back, gets a second chance. There's this new company called SNAC, SNAC.
SNAC, and they're out of the Bay Area. So
and a lot of boxers, even local kids I know, good kids are sponsored by this guy.
Vic Pasillas was with them. I know Devin Haney is with them. Mikey Garcia. I mean, there's a lot of great names. I don't want to throw.
And it's all been.
And I'm not here to say anything. you're not here to say anything bad about Victor Conti. I mean, but I am here to say that Victor Conti got busted for slinging performance-enhancing drugs. Marion Jones comes to mind. Shane Mosley comes to mind. We could probably have Daniel look up the list.
Daniel's a baseball guy too, so
yeah.
you'll remember that whole report that came out.
Yeah, the whole Balco sort of report that comes out. But it's also the funny thing about it is that just to talk about these Snack is out there, and they're no longer obviously slinging performance-enhancing drugs. There's no doubt in my mind that they're not up to that. But he's also introducing other sort of principles.
With such a pedestrian name like Snack, come on! I feel like I'm about to have like some fruit snacks.
I feel like I want a snack. Everybody wants, hey, put me on some snacks, right? But just to get back to what Victor Conti is sort of approaching it is this idea of being a strength and conditioning, a sports science guy. And he's coming over and he's doing the regimens.
It's easy to tap into boxing. Boxing is untouched in a lot of ways. And the science is behind, you have coaches who believe in these old.
But so just to be honest about this and to say that things are different for a fighter than what it was for Barry Bonds or what it was for Marion Jones. Specifically, if you're looking at what a fighter has to endure or a boxer has to endure versus someone that's running a sprint, the sprint race has a limited amount of variables. There's a starting block, there's a gun, there's a line, and there's whatever the end of the course.
Yeah. When
we talk about some of these archaic things that fighters and trainers were telling their fighters to do. Road work, for example. I'd heard Victor Conti had come out and been very critical of the road work that most fighters do. So, this decreases testosterone, and this isn't the most ideal, and this creates cortisol, and cortisol is stress, and this isn't the best thing to get somebody in shape. My thing about that is that when you're getting a fighter ready, they're not running a race. You know this as a fighter. I'm sure you did a lot of road work. Mm-hmm. There's times where you probably stepped into the ring and you thought to yourself, hey, I know that I'm in great shape because I've been running 6 or 8 miles, every other day. There's something that is so powerful about the conscious, about the mind, that I don't care. It's not like the same thing as just measuring some guy that can throw a baseball. So fighters do a lot of this archaic stuff because they're building up this sense of their spirit.
They're building up a grit.
Yeah, they're building up a sort of grit. So
there's guys that are, a little bit more out of shape, but they're just veterans. And they out of shape, but they get in there, and because they're so familiar with it, even though they look like they're in less, not in as good shape as a young kid, they would still be able to spar just fine because of that. Whether it's muscle memory, whether it's mental grit, because
they got some depth to them. They know, hey, look, man, I've done 8 or 12 rounds.
Knowing the pace of the pace. To control the rounds,
And so when you got a fighter, you're bringing a fighter along, and you have your fighter doing something like chopping wood, or Victor Conti had talked about body releasing testosterone and so forth. There's a lot of things that go on with the mental conditioning of a fighter that probably don't line up with the endocrine system. It probably doesn't line up with sports science, where you have fighters that are out there that are doing things that are far-fetched, but it's mentally making them as tough as possible to do something that's like
there's a lot of boxing remedies that have no scientific backing.
that has nothing. It's like nothing that anybody else is encountering, which is fighting underneath those lights. Yeah. So when a guy like Victor Conti gets involved in the sport, he starts talking about measurements and so forth. My big thing is like, hey.
Well, he went to the sport the only sport that will welcome him back. If you find a sport with as many dirtbags and degenerates like as boxing, then it's a forgiving sport. Wonder why.
Just to be honest with you, if we're looking at the greatest fighters of all the generations, most of them didn't have a guy like Victor Conti around. And that's not to say that there isn't value in Victor Conti, but that's just to say that if you're doing something ridiculous like waking up at 4:30 in the morning to hit 10 miles, and and after that you're calming down, and then you're watching tape, and you're focusing, and you're studying, and then all of a sudden you're sparring 10 or 12 rounds with 15 or 30 second rest. And Victor Conti could look at that and say, hey, the body's releasing cortisol. And well, guess what, Victor? At the end of the day,
he doesn't know how to coach someone like Customato.
The fighter believes that he's put himself through hell. I bet if you looked at the biological markers of like a Navy SEAL during Hell Week, there's another sort of thing that they're probably breaking these guys down. And
Yeah, some of them are dying.
there's a mental sort of
getting
toughness.
close to death.
So, but that's the thing when you're looking at Snack or you're looking at some of these guys that are getting involved in boxing. And I feel like there's an open door. And it's also that I think we're eager to sort of have, some of these archaic things go to the side and new things. But
there's a lot of opportunities in boxing. I feel like from a business perspective, there's a lot of the barriers to entry can kind of be low. Well, maybe I'm taking that from maybe I think that because I'm in the sport, but I don't think that it's a very crowded space when it comes to innovation.
Oh yeah.
So the barriers to entry being so low that if you come up with a good product, if you come up with a good some tweak, you don't have much competition in boxing. The major brands are pretty much ignoring it.
I wonder, like if boxing was created today, like with the speed bag or the double M bag, like what would survive?
One of the coaches that I worked with for a whole summer and kind of a mentor of mine, John Brown, he's adamantly against the speed bag. He thinks it does nothing for you. He thinks it's a one more waste of time, and all he runs a good gym. So all of his fighters are good.
Just to be kind of the to play devil's advocate.
Sure.
I had a chance to work with Joe Goosen. Like I said, it was very short, but I had a chance to work with him, and more importantly, sort of examine how he worked the floor, how he had his fighters work the floor. Working the floor is a fighter shows up, they're shadow boxing, they're going to the heavy bag, they're going to the slip bag and so forth. You're just going through all these bags. But he had incredible things that he did with the speed bag to teach fighters how to parry, how to slip, how to time upper backs, do an uppercut. So it's also
as a tool, but not you're saying. So you're saying that the rhythm of getting the shoulder burn isn't necessarily.
No, he wasn't having them doing that at all. He was. I mean, if anybody's ever watched what Joe Goosen has his fighters do with the speed bag, or has had an opportunity to watch it, I don't think that footage is out there on YouTube, but I definitely think that there's something there. He does it some great. I mean, he'll have guys jab it, catch it with a rear hand. I don't want to demonstrate.
I've never done any of this, by the way.
I would feel like a fool if I was demonstrating. But you have guys jab it with the lead hand and catch it with the rear hand, like if they're parrying and counter it with a left hook. He has them do all sorts of really, really cool stuff. The thing, too, is that there's something about that speed bag when you're doing something like that that's that dynamic that perhaps is helping with your focus and, helping with your reflexes. So, but yeah, just to get back to what we were saying, some of this stuff is so archaic. What's the big thing right now is the Lomachenko ball. I got one in my car, with the headband and
I wouldn't call it the Lomachenko ball. I would say that was a Russian thing.
That was a Russian thing.
Yeah. But now it's exploded, and
you see more.
I see it. Yeah. I see it in my Instagram feed. Like drop shipping stores will be like just doing a little ad for it because it's a total cheap product. I'm sure there's importing it from China, and you can
we should
sell a bunch of them.
We're going to be selling them on the podcast within the
or you can make one. Get a tennis ball, or you can just drill a hole in it.
I'm sure there's a YouTube tutorial. Where you can. Well,
because that's the thing. There was a guy named Peter Petrov who trained at the gym that I trained in Santa Fe Springs, and he had his own. He had his little thing, and this was several years back before I started seeing it explode all around the internet.
You were training in Santa Fe Springs. My grandmother used to live in Santa Fe Springs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Santa Fe Springs is just one of those cities that you only know if you're from LA, right?
Right. It's just.
You'd imagine if you're traveling abroad. Where are you from? Santa Fe Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds nice. Santa Fe Springs.
Santa Fe.
It sounds like
it sounds everything.
A resort location.
Everything that it isn't. So,
no, but it's not bad. It's a nice community, but the name sounds pretty baller.
Like Palm Desert. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're sort of off.
Palm Springs, yeah.
Did you get a chance to look at the Thurman Lopez fight? I'm sure you did, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your take?
Lopez. I mean, we all know Lopez is a real opponent.
He's the real Riverside Rocky.
Right, exactly. He gave me something to be excited about in that fight because I thought it was going to be a PBC matchup where they picked the perfect guy for Thurman. They picked PBC matchup as in they picked a name to beat. So you want another name on the resume, but this needs to be a very risk mitigated matchup so that our guy can, on his first fight back in several years after elbow injury, he needs to have a definite win. it was starting to look that way. But there was a couple of rounds in the middle there where
7th round.
Lopez, 7th round. You're right. Lopez really brought it to him, and he got caught a couple times, and I was
it's something.
It was exciting. I was pumped. It ended up not being enough, but
we're talking about another guy that's from Southern California, and we're talking about something that happens that we are very aware of in Southern California, which is there's some gritty, tough fighters out here. And Robert Garcia, once again, you got to mention him. Robert Garcia's work with Josefito Lopez. I think this is the first fight they've been together. I'm not quite sure, but Lopez, we think about Lopez had that great fight with Victor Ortiz. Remember this?
I don't.
Oh yeah, that's kind of.
Was he the one that made him quit?
Yeah, he's the one that made him quit. It's so hard. You watch so many fights. It's like, but I'm pretty positive. Yeah. But watching Lopez that night against Thurman, wanting to root for Lopez, it's sort of like you're watching the Cinderella Man, because you know that he's, as far as athleticism, skills, and just God-given sort of ability of getting in that ring. Completely different sort of against his opposition against Keith Thurman. But when we're talking about will, we're talking about grit, we're talking about toughness, and going after Keith Thurman, man, he did a hell of a job. And I honestly, you got to give credibility to the team. I don't think that Lopez has a performance like that unless he's with a Robert Garcia. And that's just keeping it real. Robert Garcia does a hell of a job with his fighters. And, when Lopez came to fight, man, he really came to fight. And there's a moment afterwards, after the fight, I think everybody in the corner knows that, that they lost the fight. But if you could see, you see Robert's father, and you see Robert hug Lopez. And it's the kind of love and hug that you can only give a fighter, because you're just so proud of them.
Yeah.
Because they put everything out on the line. And they went out there literally, and that
I think Lopez had some optimism. He thought he won.
Yeah,
because when you're in that, you don't necessarily have the objective viewpoint.
Almost had Keith Thurman out in the 7th. Keith Thurman did what you're supposed to do, which is kept his hands up and survived. I mean, and that gets you. The other fighter I think about doing that was when Deontay fought the Cuban, when he fought Ortiz, when they get themselves in trouble. But with when you're looking at Thurman, I guess a question that we should be talking about, since this is Thurman's, the rebirth back into the scene, is whether or not he can hang with the names in his division, and whether or not he sort of gets exposed for not being, what we thought he was.
Too easy to get hit.
I don't,
But I wouldn't want to say that. I've seen that. I've seen people write that, but I don't want to say that because I'm not taking anything away from.
And anybody that's writing that too, I think they should probably take into account that there's a lot of pressure on a fighter that probably, that we know that he hasn't been in the ring for a couple of years. He's going to have that pressure to perform. They're going to want it to have a certain aesthetic to it, have a certain look to it. And so that's not to take anything away from Lopez, but that's also to say that when Keith Thurman is going in there and he ends up getting himself in trouble, he's also sort of hoping to put on a certain sort of marquee performance that announces that he's on his way back, and perhaps wasn't being as defensively responsible or defensively minded in there. Now that this is a jump to assumption. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Keith Thurman's head. But I will say this, as far as the killers that we see in his division, right now, as of record, and until I see maybe Thurman fight somebody else, I don't know if his name should be mentioned up there with the top guys anymore.
In the division now.
In the division, yeah.
He holds WBA.
Yeah. Which is
because they let him keep it.
They let him keep it.
He'll
end up being. I do disagree.
So I don't know how you're gonna, because they're going to have to keep him in the conversation when he holds one of the titles.
No, I think, but I'm saying if we're talking about who is dominating the division versus Earl, for example. So.
And he'll tell you that's because you're saying that only because he was 2 years away in an injury, but
which is probably true.
But if Earl Spence wins, which might happen,
I'd love to see both those matchups, right? And
then
I wasn't
Earl Spence and Keith Thurman would be what you need to see.
Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter again. I mean, God, you got to talk about.
That was a good one, yeah.
You talk about an incredible fight with getting those two together. And Sean Porter's another guy that we know is going to come to work every time. He's a blue collar worker. He can box when he wants to box, which a lot of people don't give him credit for. And we know he can bulldoze when he wants to bulldoze, and goes in there with a certain temperament that gives a lot of fighters a hard time. I just don't know. We're looking at Thurman, and it's nobody I know can walk away. It's sort of like the Caleb Plant performance. I've been saying that when I'm going to butcher Uzbekati's last name.
That was close. Yeah, I have no idea, but I've heard that. Yeah,
I'm a great, obviously got to be a fan of I was a fan of Uzbekati, the fight against Darrell, the fight where he took the punch from Darrell's uncle.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. That one made it in the
how do you not
the
root,
Twitter sphere outside of boxing. It was that was a big one.
How do you not root for anybody that could take that punch from Darrell's uncle? So shout out to Darrell's uncle for landing that punch, and definitely shout outs to
Uzbekati for being able to stand up after that one.
Man, you could take a shot. I knew one thing in my head.
From a bigger guy.
I kept thinking Caleb. I don't know if Caleb could hurt him, and I actually had picked Jose versus the fight with
Well, how beautiful was that? So even if you think that Caleb doesn't have the power to hurt him, how beautiful is it in a style matchup like that to see him knock him down twice? On perfectly timed, perfectly executed punches where maybe they weren't like a head changer, but he knocked him down 2 times, and that was a big factor in winning the fight, and that was amazing.
I had a little bit of a chance to be in Vegas this summer, and was at the gym that Caleb was at. It's not like probably didn't even notice me. I was off in the corner with some other fighters. But, I don't know his trainer's name. They're doing great work with Caleb. And to also know that the only reason why I bring up Caleb and Keith Thurman is saying that there's a sort of parallel there is because with Keith Thurman, he didn't have that breakout performance. And I really believe if Caleb would have run another round or two the way that he run, in my opinion, the first 6 rounds, that I would have been completely sold on Caleb as being just being real honest here. One of the what I like to say white boys that can fight, right? Especially definitely one of the white boys and an American that could fight like that. So if Caleb could have fought,
he in my opinion as a white boy.
He
is the preeminent white boy
that can fight. He's the preeminent white boy. But for me to wholeheartedly sign off on him,
I'm not considering any Europeans as white boys. If
Billy,
you weren't called white boy,
all
the
gypsies,
white guy in your gym, you're not white in the sense that we're talking.
There's something else that's going on with the gypsies because it was Billy and Tyson. Tyson. Because man, they can move and they
travelers.
They got something else going on. But back to Billy.
Come from the dead.
Back to Caleb. If Caleb would have won another round or two, the way that he did it in the first 6 rounds, I probably would have. It would have been a complete sign off on him that, hey man, this dude is going to be here for a long, long time. And but at this point, if you had to face like a Benavidez or somebody like that.
I remember texting you during. Like right after it, I had been catching up slower than you.
I went to the fights. Yeah.
You weren't as convinced on Caleb as you were after seeing it the second time. I think you had said something to the effect of he won the back 6 of the.
No, he won the first six, and then. But if Caleb could have won, he just didn't win the first 6. He dominated the first 6. So just to be honest about it. If Caleb could have won another round or two like that, man, the guy.
Sorry, I butchered that.
Yeah, I definitely would sign off on him. So that's just to say with Keith Thurman, whether or not Keith didn't come out there and dominate Lopez, and to be honest too, I don't think Lopez was coming to be dominated, which is a lot. Lopez came there to fight, and there's talks about Lopez. I think Robert Garcia had mentioned that he'd like Lopez to fight Adrian Broner. I'd
love to see that.
Who wouldn't want to see that fight? I mean, especially knowing, I think that
I'd love to see
Robert Garcia versus. I mean, I hate to, this is something I shouldn't be laughing about, but Robert Garcia versus Adrian Broner at this point. I don't know the exact numbers on it, but I do know that Adrian Broner's had no success against Robert Garcia's fight.
Yeah, who are the other ones? So Chino was Chino his first loss? Madonna his first loss? Broner's first loss.
Broner's first loss, yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
And then obviously Mikey
and
am I missing somebody?
I don't know. I'm thinking about it right now.
Yeah, it's hard to know.
Speaking of Chino Maidana, you see that video? He's supposedly coming back.
Yeah. So
that's hilarious because he is the guy. Yeah. He's the quintessential guy who's living the good life after boxing. Like you see him how fat he's gotten, and you post on social media, and I'm happy to see him. Like he is enjoying his retirement.
Yeah,
He's got a cigar. He's
in Argentina. He's probably eating steak.
Yeah, he's eating steak every night.
Red wine.
And he's 3 times the size he was in his fighting career.
Yeah.
And he was one of the guys where you think, okay, at least he's enjoying his retirement. He made good money for his family, and he's off.
Yeah, he walks away with his faculties.
I don't know why he'd be training right now.
I don't think it's ever easy for these guys to walk away, especially a guy like Chino who had fought Floyd at the top of the sport, getting that much amount of attention, and
got 2 fights against him.
Yeah, two fights against Floyd.
So he got a Floyd fight and a paycheck because that second one, I think.
Why does he need to come back? Is the question? Because how much money did he had to made?
I think on that first
collectively with Floyd.
First Floyd fight, he made $3 million.
Yeah,
which is like a staggering difference.
Yeah.
But in the second fight, I would have hoped he made at least.
I'm sure
10, 20 or
something where he should be living pretty.
Because no one gets a rematch against the greatest and then doesn't have the bargaining power to demand a large payday for that.
Just to be honest about something about matchups is that, and just being real, we talked about matchups earlier today, was that you look at Maidana when Maidana fought Floyd in the first fight, and then you look at Maidana when he fought Adrian Broner. Depending on the ref of some of these fights, you're going to let a fighter be more physical.
Yeah.
That's just saying that that Adrian Broner, being who Adrian Broner is sort of easily typecasted as a villain and so forth, that they let Maidana be a lot more physical with him and didn't always speak up. So they let him really.
I would have to rewatch.
Oh yeah, man.
To make that.
They literally, it's a very physical fight, and there's a lot of wrestling and a lot of manipulation.
A little bit of humping.
Yeah, a little bit of humping. Yeah.
Did you see Broner? There was a moment in the fight a couple weeks ago against Pacquiao
where he had a chance.
He was almost gonna do it again. He's like that idiot in middle school that thinks he's cool. It's like get a new joke, dude. You already used that before.
It's hard. It's Adrian Broner. So the thing about Adrian Broner does have is honestly telling the truth to everybody. As far as we're talking about a guy, I can't remember what he is. Is he lost his last 3 or?
To be honest, producer Daniel can pull up his boxer.
Yeah, Adrian Broner.
Broner.
Yeah. I want to say he's lost his last 3. Last 3 in a draw or something?
Lost to Pacquiao, draw to Jesse Vargas, lost to Mickey Garcia.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing that we do know about Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner can build the fight. When I hear Adrian Broner's fighting, I'm checking in. Adrian Broner does come to fight. I think that he's a little gun shy as far as letting his hands go. Subconsciously after all the losses and so forth. Even against the Pacquiao fight, he had these moments where you're like, hey, Adrian Broner's going to pick up, and he doesn't pick up in the Pacquiao fight. So, but Adrian Broner is a star because of his theater and antics outside of the ring. So when we see Broner and inside the ring, so
I hate him.
This is this is a moment. I mean, this is such a complicated conversation, and I wouldn't to even get into it. But specifically, Adrian Broner has made sort of the money that he's made in boxing.
Has Adrian Broner made a lot of money?
Oh yeah.
What has his paydays been?
I know that they offered him DAZN, or it offered him $40 million. For 4 or 5 fights, I can't remember.
Really? Oh my god!
But for him, he said no.
No. He wasn't.
He said no to it.
Because I was gonna say he's still part of Showtime. Right?
Yeah. But for you to say no to that kind of money, and obviously you're a fighter, this is, what's the famous Floyd line?
I just didn't think he has made it that much money. He's kind of a. I mean,
Floyd had the line.
His name is about billions. I don't even think he's in. I don't even think he's multi-millionaire. I don't want to.
I'm sure he's got millions. But Floyd had said that, I'm a prize fighter, dummy. You remember him saying this? We fight for prizes. I'm a prize fighter, dummy. So the only reason why I bring it up is that when you're talking about Adrian Broner, you're talking about the amount of money that he's made in his career. For him to say no to that kind of money from DAZN, he obviously must be doing better.
Yeah.
Without him, I do want to disagree, and I do think that PBC does do good matchups, though. I don't think that they feed their fighters like Top Rank does. And
PBC in the first couple of years.
Yeah, I think
the first year they really fed it. Now we're seeing good matchups.
Yeah, now you see a lot of good matchups
Because a lot of their A-side guys are like, all right, now it's time. Now it's time to fight each other, and that was cool. And now we're getting good matchups.
I just want to reiterate. But,
sure.
But back with Broner, I think Broner, to make it in America as a fighter, as a black fighter, specifically, you Adrian Broner playing this villain that America sort of, loves to hate. Which is just a very honest, awkward conversation about it.
Yeah,
is why he's making money, because he's what America.
Well, he's following the blueprint of somebody else.
Yeah, but it's also
he isn't really.
Yeah, I mean,
executing the same way.
I hate to say this, but you look at a fighter like Andre Ward, who's we know as far as is probably the opposite of Adrian Broner. Right. Family.
Andre Ward is the ultimate golden.
Yeah. Not
I don't
that
want to say golden boy. It's a little bit of it's been used, but he is a prime example of a star citizen, as far as I know.
Yeah,
and no one outside of boxing fans really knew that much about Andre Ward.
We got a gold medalist. Right. Guy won a gold medal for the United States of America.
The last time we have a gold.
Last time we had
in the men's.
In
the men's Clarissa Shields, 2-time gold winner.
And Marlon Esperanza got the. She didn't get a gold.
She didn't get a gold.
She got a bronze. But we got to shout her out though, right? I mean, she won a bronze medal.
Yeah, of course. I was talking about gold medals. Yeah.
But we're talking about Andre.
Clarissa Shields, we're big fans of. And
absolutely.
Hopefully we can get her on the podcast someday.
Yeah, it would be great to have Clarissa. I think Clarissa is doing wonderful work. And, I don't think much of Steve Kim for talking about Clarissa, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. We'll get to that later on in another episode.
But if we're talking about Andre Ward and looking at Adrian Broner and sort of juxtaposed next to each other, and Adrian Broner basically being this thing that America loves to hate, and typically a lot of black fighters have to align themselves with this. Floyd Mayweather, I think a young Floyd when he won.
It's a way to sell a fight.
It's a way to sell a fight.
In America.
You look at Floyd, when Floyd fought Gennaro.
It's happened time after time.
When Floyd fought Gennaro Chiquitito Hernandez, he falls to his knees and starts crying, And I knew Gennaro Chiquitito Hernandez very well. He trained me when I was younger. And he had told me that he'd walked up to Mr. Gennaro and said, "Thank you, Mr. Hernandez, for this opportunity to fight you." And when Gennaro had when he caught cancer, he paid for his funeral. So this is sort of Floyd that we see. That's not to take anything away from Floyd, but when Floyd becomes Pretty Boy Floyd and becomes Money Mayweather, the amount of success that he got being Money Mayweather and being this character that America loved to hate. And I'm saying that there is something there with Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner has
he tried to take a fast track to being Money Mayweather.
Yeah, and it's also
he even called himself Little Brother, and that was.
It's also to be very honest about something that probably is like I said, an awkward conversation. Is that America won't get behind a black fighter when they're taking the sort of image that Andre Ward did, and that's just
okay. Let's think of last time that an American black fighter was
Sugar
a hero.
Sugar Ray Leonard. But he had that look who's coming to dinner, that Sidney Poitier sort of aesthetic to him. He is very comfortable and didn't.
He fit a lot of character types.
Yeah, I don't want to say character types.
Because he was a gold medal winner also.
Yeah, he's a gold medal winner also. But he is, if you look at Leonard's body and you look at his smile and the way that Leonard was presenting himself. You imagine telling Roger Mayweather that you're going to do it how Sugar Ray Leonard did it, or as far as to be successful, or you got to go about it, even how Oscar De La Hoya did it with the Golden Boy. We're just talking about marketing of fighters and getting them success as a fighter. Yeah. So I'm saying with a guy like Adrian Broner, why we hate Broner so much is much more complicated. I don't hate Adrian Broner. I do wish a guy let his hands go.
Are you throwing me under the bus right now?
No, not at all. No. I can see why people would. I mean, Adrian Broner's an easy guy to hate.
There's a lot of reasons I don't like Adrian Broner.
Yeah. I mean, it's some of the things that he was. I mean, listen, we're gonna have honest conversations here.
Oh yeah. Good.
Some of the things that he was doing on his social media.
Bro, when he lit the money on fire. No, not lit the money on fire.
There was an incident with a stripper.
He threw up change at Walmart and said, "Change, I don't need change." Big shot, dude. Guess what, dude? You're shopping at Walmart.
So there's a lot of things
So-
with Broner that it's easy to sort of vilify him, but you know it's a hard conversation to have without
Fighters
being
got to be their own
completely-
promoters, and I
Honestly.
understand what they're doing.
The reason I'm
They're doing
bringing it
a
up
good
is
job.
when Broner comes back to fight, we're all going to check in. You'll be checking in. We'll be checking in. It's because of what he's built up. It's also too that America was paying all that money to watch Floyd Mayweather fight, oftentimes with people from different countries. Whether it be Argentina, a couple of times
Philippines.
the Philippines, Ricky Hatton in the UK, and so on and so on and so on, because they were hoping that somebody would come over here and teach this guy a lesson. Floyd Mayweather fought in the Atlanta Games, the Olympic Games, was a medalist. He should have been a gold medalist, got robbed. And I just can't imagine, Americans rooting against Michael Phelps, or another Olympian in another sport, especially for these guys that are doing USA boxing.
Yeah.
They end up on our Olympic team. There's so many hours that are involved in it, and they're basically fighting for free for the country.
Yeah. Takes a little way from the argument with his criminal record,
but people, even when you think about Floyd's criminal record, and nobody wants to give Floyd a pass for domestic violence. I certainly don't. But just also being very honest that America already was rooting against the guy,
right,
and not getting.
Well, they already were rooting against him when he became that flamboyant character.
Yeah, especially when he became
there was a time, but he wasn't making as much money because that's how you cash in.
Robert Guerrero's father, he ran like a chicken. It's hard not to. There's so many things about Floyd. Now, Floyd isn't going to fight. Anybody that's not involved in boxing, that said that that has these grand ideas that they could take. You talk to some civilian who thinks he could take Floyd in a street fight or whatever.
That's another discussion.
You're absolutely crazy.
So, yeah.
Floyd did not run like a chicken. Floyd was one of
these
the greatest
days,
fighters of his generation.
One of these days, we'd like to have Trevor break down a Floyd tape for the audience because
I don't like to educate the dummies, but I definitely will show
there
you
is a lot more that Trevor can contribute to the conversation that would
with Floyd. Floyd is the greatest of his generation.
There's a lot that you don't see.
A lot that you don't see, and that's that. What about we had Jaime Munguia?
Munguia, yeah.
So I met Jaime outside of the fight.
Yeah, what's your opinion on him?
Well,
tell me what you think.
I'll be honest with you. Jaime looks huge on television. So when I saw him, obviously he's coming down in weight, but
you're huge, bro. That's
fine. It's one of these moments you're like, oh, wait a minute, like he looks huge, and then I'm standing next to him and I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Well, people are always surprised to know about the fighter's weights because they're like, whoa, he's 135, he looks huge, he looks jacked. But
they're very lean and so forth.
Exactly. So you're not gonna be able to tell from the TV screen.
As far as you're looking at who Golden Boy has, which is basically Canelo and Jaime come to mind. Canelo being, I think it was reported that Canelo was 93 or 94% of their business a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Looking at Jaime's development, obviously they got the Instagram kid, Ryan Garcia. I hate to call him the Instagram kid, but
we like Ryan Garcia, right?
So
I like him.
My take on Ryan Garcia.
I'm bullish on Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, I'd
love to have him on the podcast.
Didn't think much of Ryan Garcia, but now that I see that Ryan Garcia is with Chepo, with Canelo's trainer,
it's a new page.
I expect a lot out of him. I think that he's with great trainers. I love the work that they have done with Canelo. Furthermore, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Oscar Valdez, and
who has a fight?
Yeah, has a fight
this weekend.
Yeah, has a fight this weekend. But we're looking at Ryan Garcia.
Undercard.
If you would have asked me about Ryan Garcia when he was with his father, and this is no knock on his father, there's been great relationships and training relationships between fathers and sons that have done things. But I didn't think much of him. I didn't think much of his craft. Just watching his last fight, I was like, hey, I see that there's things that they're working on that Canelo does very, very effectively. And it's exciting to see Ryan Garcia do these things. I'd like to say this. Don't expect Ryan Garcia to do anything in boxing as far as being a world champion unless they automatically get the right look, the right look. I don't expect anything out of him big for another 2 or 3 years. If he stays diligent and he stays disciplined and he stays with the Reynosos, I expect him to be a really good fighter, man. The guy's got great skill set. He's got great athleticism. He's quick. And then he's a good-looking kid. I expect him to be a superstar. So, but if
Well,
you would,
that's already.
but if you
in
would
the
have asked me
making.
before he joined
both
them,
are-
my I was telling everybody, he's not shit. So, but now that he's with the right team, and that's just to say that you got to have the right people behind you. And now I can sort of say, hey man, this kid is probably going to end up being, he's going to end up being a really good fighder. So,
Any other prospects you want to?
that I want to shout out,
Because you might have it.
I would be biased. The prospect, obviously, Devin Haney is not a prospect. I think that when Devin Haney says that he's a contender, I think that we should be paying attention. I saw obviously he's still a young man, and you're hoping that he's going to grow into his power. He's not stopping people, although he's boxing the brake lights off of everybody.
Teofimo Lopez.
Lopez is another kid that I enjoy watching.
Electric kid.
Yeah. He's
He's gonna be fighting this weekend.
Yeah.
He's fighting Jesse.
Magdalena. Yeah.
No. His brother.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
Diego Magdalena.
Yeah. Thank you.
Which is a huge.
Yeah, that's not a. Here's a guy that's
that's
not
an incredibly different.
It's a test. I'm sorry.
matchup.
It's a test. It's a great fight. It's a great look. That's not a pushover fight.
Right. Yeah.
Then when Lopez when he walks away from that, we're gonna know whether or not he's a real deal. And I love that when they're.
I mean, if he walks away from it, you don't even discount that. That's Diego would smack you for saying that, right?
Yeah,
Because think about it. He's 32-2, and
he's not a pushover.
Right,
yeah.
right.
There's a good chance that he wins the fight. In fact, if you're asking me about odds,
we're just happy for a top ranked guy to get tested. But him and his dad have been pushing for it so much to want to get title shots as soon as possible. Yeah. So
it's
enter contender status, get out of prospect status.
It's one of
as
these
soon
fights
as possible.
that the general public probably won't check into. I don't know. Is it on Showtime?
Where's it on? No, it's on ESPN Plus or ESPN.
Yeah, that's I hate when they put on Plus. It's hard to get your eyes on.
That's the new world we're
that's the new world we live in. But it's one of these great fights that's going to happen, and you expect them to go at it. But I do there's something about the Lopez kid that I like a lot. The other kid that I'm very big on is a young man out of Long Beach. I'm obviously going to give him shout outs. His name is Ashton Silv, and he's at Jackrabbits. He's only 15. It's hard for me to co-sign on a kid that's 15. I do want to say this though. I saw that
say it to
the
audience.
I want to say this. I saw Devin Haney when he was 8 or 9 at the Gene Lewis tournament in Arizona, maybe even younger. And I stopped everything that I was doing. I said, who is this kid? And I watched the young Devin Haney, and I told everybody that would listen to me. I said, man, there's this kid. I don't know his name. Or I knew his name is Devin Haney. He's out of Vegas, and I said he doesn't look like anything else that I'm seeing. Same thing with Ryan Garcia. I watched when Devin fought Ryan Garcia. I think at the Adidas Pal tournament. And I knew that Ryan was a great prospect, and I do want to say this about Ashton. He's definitely like something that I've never seen before in the development and as far as his team that's going. The way that his team is going about it, it's specifically his father, Ivan, who owns Jackrabbits Boxing over in Long Beach. Not to be too biased, I'm part of the team, so but even if I wasn't part of the team,
just explain your bias.
If I wasn't part of the team, and just to be real, I've only sort of recently been working with them for about a month. Although Ivan and I have had a good friendship, a boxing relationship for a while. I was already signing off on the kid, whether or not I was involved or not. The kid can fight. They got that whole gym is full. I believe it's 5 to 7.
A lot of good young
nationally ranked amateurs.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about prospects and kids that I'm signing off on, I think that's the name that everybody. If his name is Superman Silv, he's on Instagram. That's his handle. But to get a good look at this kid, and I'm signing off on him. I'd love to just to be the first person to sign off on him. I'm sure I'm not. Don't get me wrong. Other people are talking about him, but But as far as but back to Jaime Munguia, the thing about Jaime is that Jaime is a guy that I think could do a lot of great things in boxing, but some of the same sort of sentiment that I was expressing about Ryan Garcia is whether or not he's with the right team. I'd love to see was Jaime with PBC? Who's he with? Probably right. He's with Golden Boy.
Jaime was on a DAZN
Yeah,
card
yeah. Oh,
on
is he with
last
DAZN?
weekend.
Okay, so he's-
yeah, it's Golden Boys on DAZN, and that's yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to see a guy like Jaime knowing what it is that I think he's capable of. I think he'd be a great fit with a guy like Freddie Roach. I don't know who his trainer is. I don't want to step on anybody's work. But if they get him with the right trainer, if they get him with a Freddie or they get him with a Robert Garcia, a guy that understands these styles and knows what to do with a fighter like that, I think he could do great things. I'm just being real. Him getting
He's only 22. I'm gonna assume he's with one of his early coaches from Tijuana. He's not. He hasn't yet been enticed to take on a new trainer here in America, but there's opportunities for that. Who knows? That may happen. Bigger fights are going to come up later on.
To be completely honest about boxing, and there is no lying in boxing. There's no lying. Like, the ring will tell the truth sooner or later. With Jaime Munguia, I don't like to see a young guy in a shootout like that. You know, particularly with Inoue. Like, it's like he's going to have. If you're getting in a shootout with a guy, we're not. You know, no disrespect to Inoue, we're probably not going to remember your name in 2 years. That's just keeping it real about boxing. If you're getting that tough of a look of a fight right now against a guy like that, how is it that I expect you to do great things in your division as you move up and the looks get more and more difficult? I don't see it. Seeing Jaime and who he is and the potential, and as far as is what he could be, I think if he same thing with Ryan Garcia. Now I'm signing off on him. I do expect great things out of him. I think Jaime gets with a great team. He can do a lot of things, but as of right now, I'm not going to give Jaime the nod, and that's just, and that's my bias. That's just the way that I look at it. But that's just me being completely real about it.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he has this. I don't think he has the style that you.
No, I like. No, oh come on! I love Chavez. Give me a break.
Okay.
I love.
But as of lately, I feel like fighting that you've been teaching. I don't know.
Well, that's what I tell people.
Enough on Jaime. Do you have another topic you wanted to go over?
Yeah. But I just want to get this out because it's on my brain.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I talk about fighters or studying a fighter, you look at Julio Cesar Chavez, for example. Chavez, there's a thing that a lot of civilians do, and a lot of people involved in boxing do this as well, which is they go to the round where Chavez will stop the fighter, and they study that round and they try to create a fighter that's based on that, what they see Chavez doing in that specific round. They don't look at the 6 or 7 rounds that led up to Chavez.
There's too much tape out there, man.
Yeah, but I'm saying
you can fill a library.
But it's like they want to make Chavez in the 7th round the super hyper aggressive fighter, but they're not looking at Chavez, where he's making all these fighters get flustered, or he's cutting off the ring, or he's making them miss, or he's putting himself in defensive positions and then getting offensive off of them, and so forth. So when I look at
so that's the homework basically.
That's a homework for everybody. I love a great pressure fighter, but actually a great fighter that knows how to pressure. Abner Mars versus pulled out against Gervonta Davis. So
yeah, what happened there? Because I just saw how I found out about the fight coming apart was Tevin Farmer, who I love and I'm a big fan of right now. Big bullish on Tevin right now. He has beef with Davis.
Yeah.
They're constantly in Twitter battles.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
He was talking shit about the replacement opponent,
right,
to Davis, and so I found out through a roundabout way. But what happened to Mars?
I mean, something to just shout out to Tevin Farmer. We know that Tevin Farmer, he's in John Pullman's gym a lot of times out in Burbank. Pullman used to train. I think he's still involved in Gerald Washington, although I don't know. And Pullman had another fighter on undercard that did really well. That I want to say won a title. And I'm sorry I don't know the names off the top of the hand. But the thing about a guy like Tevin Farmer is always staying in shape. He's staying fight ready. I think that Tevin Farmer is calling out Gervonta Davis, has been calling out Gervonta Davis. I know there's been incidents where Tevin Farmer ran up on Gervonta, has been demanding the fight. This isn't something that's, this has been going on, I think, about 1.5 years to 2 years now. I think that, Gervonta, look, I don't think
Gervonta does a lot of Twitter beef on many guys. People.
And Gervonta's team,
maybe that's why they engaged.
Just to be honest about Gervonta and what he, his potential as a fighter and his career path and so forth, and how big he can get, not physically, because I know he puts on some weight, but as far as being a star, I could understand why they're not giving they don't want to give him that look. Why they don't want to give him Tevin Farmer. It's probably a business.
Because they've been invested enough in.
Yeah, they got a lot of invested in Davis. Not that's not to say. Just to be honest about it, if Tevin Farmer was fighting Gervonta Davis, I'm not going to completely sign off on one another. That's another great fight, man. I think we'd love to see that. Well, Abner Mars, Abner was also with Robert Garcia. Hey, think about not stress, but think about Robert. Robert had Lopez, he's got Mikey Garcia, then he had Abner Mars. All big fights in a small period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason why that guy was trainer of the year.
Yeah, when trainers Yeah.
So
when trainers have multiple camps going on for guys, it's a lot to manage, but it's not just 3 fights. These are all 3 big time
main events.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And this is so Abner pulling.
Hey, speaking of someone who we respect, like you said, Robert Garcia, trainer of the year several times. Funny enough, when you see him at events here in Southern California, it's always we were joking earlier about how we think it's funny how the person who's not a boxer will make the fist.
Yeah.
He is asked to do a million pictures.
Yeah.
He's pointing at people almost like people should be doing the point to him, and he should be doing the thing. Wow. It's just funny. It's kind of it looks like a nice, respectful guy. Yeah. I've never talked to him or anything.
I never talked to him.
He seems like a really chill dude. Like as far as always letting people take pictures with him. But I think it's funny how he's always pointing to the fan, like the fan's someone. Maybe a thank you. Maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but it's funny to me.
Robert used to talk to Chiquinito, to General Hernandez all the time over speakerphone. So to hear how Robert is and so forth, Robert, as far obviously I'm just in the garage. Why I was in the garage a lot of times training when General was talking to Robert Garcia. Robert is obviously, hear him on the phone. He's a great guy. He's nice, fun, happy. Sort of the Robert Garcia that we see, and him pointing at other people makes sense because Robert Garcia is a very humble guy and very obviously I feel like this is the Robert Garcia because we've given him so much props, but he deserves his props and so forth. Yeah. So, but with Abner, back to Abner, we're looking at Abner. Listen, sparring.
What actually happened?
Sparring? So being involved in these camps, and him getting hurt 2 weeks before the fight. When these guys are going at it, man, because it's bombs away, So typically, I don't know how long fight camp was for him. I believe it was about 6 to 8 weeks. And, like I said, I don't know. But when you're 2 weeks out, usually leading into that, these guys they're on full go. Because that's what they're going to be encountering, and then they taper back. That's how Jesse Reed did it.
Yeah.
That's how I've seen Joe Goosen do it.
The last week before a fight, you're more just focused on making that weight.
As far as Abner getting hurt before a fight 2 weeks out, listen, when you're putting your body underneath that kind of stress, and it isn't just what they're encountering in the ring, it's also the road work and.
Wait, but what did he injure? I don't know that much.
So this is what I know. I do know it's the elbow. It's so common. I had a fighter. That had Tommy John's surgery. Reese Bennett, I just shout his name out. He went pro 5-0, but went to law school. That's a whole other story. But which is probably was the safe bet. Go to law school. Don't fight if you have the opportunity to go to law school, right? But looking at it, Abner, I'm sure, hurt himself. There's other people are going to jump to. I hate when I hear people say stuff like Abner's scared. Like, come on, bro. Like Abner's been facing guys in the ring and sparring on any given Saturday. Abner Mars is not scared.
I don't think a Southern California guy who's matched up with the opponents he has could be that kind of guy if he was a scared guy.
Abner Mars was not scared to fight Gervonta Davis. Give me a break. I hate when I hear this sort of dogma, But I think he caught an injury. You could speculate something, but I think that would be all hearsay, and that's that. So, what else we want to talk about? Some pop culture?
Sure.
What did we get? Tekashi 6ix9ine?
Yeah, 6ix9ine.
Yeah. You know who this guy is?
He looks like Tevin Farmer's trunks in Tevin Farmer's fight against the British guy, and I will include a picture on the show notes or video.
Because
that was he's a clown, right? He's a character that raps.
Well, he's a character that I think of it like a Cabbage Patch. You probably don't even know what a Cabbage Patch.
Yeah.
So like he's got the wild rainbow hair and so forth.
Yeah.
So I think he got himself in a situation with his group, which I think is called Treyway. It's
Treyway, like
listen. Sometimes
Treyway, like that or what?
Sometimes I end up down the dark rabbit hole of YouTube and
producer Daniel, what's up?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
9 Trey Bloods. That's what it's
9
called.
9 Trey Bloods. Yeah.
There's actually an update 3 hours ago of the official transcript of the plea hearing.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and continue setting it up, and then I'll
he's from Brooklyn. I think we obviously if he was calling himself the King of New York.
How did he get big so fast? Just social media?
No. SoundCloud. He's a SoundCloud rapper.
So SoundCloud is.
He's also perfect. He's perfect for this generation.
And eventually you turn a profit on SoundCloud. Yeah. Like he started off as a SoundCloud guy, and eventually he's making money, or you get a record deal after that.
No, I think that they were paying to come. They were paying to come out and see him. I mean, he has such a big following off of SoundCloud. He's perfect for this generation because just imagine like everything that you are.
Substance is about an inch deep, but the Flash is about a mile wide.
Not to attack the millennials, but everything that he's got the rainbow hair. He's tattooed on his face.
You can attack the millennials. It doesn't bug me, bro.
Tattoos on the neck.
It's gonna be hard to hurt my feelings.
What was it? It was he Guatemalan or
he's Mexican?
Mexican and he's Puerto Rican.
Treyway.
Yeah. Obviously was I want to say claiming a blood, but affiliated with the blood set from Brooklyn, and I think that art might have intimidated life, or life might have intimidated art. And what he was charged with?
He pled guilty, actually, to multiple counts of racketeering, conspiracy, firearm offenses, and narcotics trafficking. In the statement, he said he admitted to helping members of the gang, the 9 Trey Bloods, attempt to kill a rival to increase his own standing in 9 Trey. He also paid a person to shoot at a rival gang member of 9 Trey to scare him. The shooting took place in Manhattan. I did this to maintain or increase my own standing. Let's see. He also admitted to selling a kilo of heroin in 2017.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it goes on, but yeah, he's basically a big troll. That's what got him famous.
Okay.
He he'd call out rappers, say "fuck you."
I did see
whatever.
him do like something where he was like dating someone's baby mama or something. It was just to
him and Adrian Broner. Him and
somebody.
Broner got into it. Tekashi.
That's right.
And then Tekashi was supposed to walk Broner out at his fight at Madison Square Garden. And then something happened that night. A gun goes off at Madison Square Garden. And I don't know too much about it, but I think that's what kind of put him on.
But I think I want to close this up because I've had enough of this pretty much. But what I think is funny is how there are some rappers out there that the art has been about crime life and whatnot. And they themselves maybe aren't necessarily like they've made a whole career, made millions of dollars with rapping about crime, but they're pretty fine dudes.
This is what I want to.
And this is a guy who was just a SoundCloud guy. He's serving 47 years or whatever, and he never got his chance to be like the true longevity of a money making career. And
this is what I
he's out before he's in.
This is what I like to tell people about rappers that rap about that. Do you know what the RICO is? The conspiracy charges? If you're familiar with RICO. So RICO is basically an act. Like, listen, this is for everybody that listens to their favorite artists, their favorite hip hop artists. You don't have to prove conspiracy. All you have to do is prove conspiracy, and you are facing time. So all these rappers that come out and they're talking about pushing weight and moving kilos and whatever it is, fentanyl or heroin. They're talking about the drug game. If they were really doing it, that's considered conspiracy.
Oh, I see.
And they would go to jail. Right. This is how when you look at Freeway Ricky Ross, the famous Los Angeles rapper.
But rather since
Big Meech from BMF is another guy they got him on RICO, they got him on conspiracy. They're never catching drugs on them. They're never catching they're not catching them in the act of selling drugs. So when you're looking at your rappers and they're talking about the drug game, if it was they would probably be facing RICO charges if they were really involved in the drug game. So this is Tekashi apparently probably was, and here he is, and he's gonna have to pay the system. I don't. You know, the other thing about it is it sounds like, I hate to use this word, but it sounds like he snitched. You know, and it sounds like he's turning a state witness against his guys. And it's only interesting because, you know, he came out, he did a song with Nicki Minaj, and I mean, the guy was blowing up, and it probably, I would imagine, has accumulated 10 or 15, 20 million, made a lot of money, and who knows when he's going to get out. What else did we?
He's going to be 69 when he gets out.
Yeah, he's gonna. Oh, yeah, that's the Illuminati. There's all these weird conspiracies.
No, I think that was just they're proud. If someone.
He's 22.
Yeah.
And he's gonna get 47 years, and he's gonna be 69. And you hear about all these weird numerology. What else? What else?
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about Roger Stone at all?
I don't know much about him, to be honest.
Just talking about.
You can if you'd like to.
Yeah,
tee it off.
You watched the Netflix documentary?
I did.
Yeah, he's
good.
He's a perfect sort of villain.
Absolutely.
To see him and doing his
like a Marvel comic villain kind of.
He's got like a fake orange.
He's like a Lex Luthor.
Yeah, Lex Luthor.
I mean, he's not, because when you watch the documentary, you realize he's been at it since the Nixon administration. He has a back tattoo of Nixon's face
on his
really?
back.
Yeah. So I don't know much about the guy.
Well, I just bringing it up, talking about what's going on in the news of the week.
I know he got busted. FBI.
Yeah, that they might be
raid his house
to prove collusion. You know,
prove collusion. Okay.
Collusion out there for all our boxing people, if they're not paying attention, is whether or not the Russians were involved with hacking democracy in this last election. And so, you know, when you're looking at a guy like Roger Stone, it seems like it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. He's a perfect villain. It's also that he has this iconic moment where the feds get him. He comes out of the courthouse and he's doing the two.
Oh yeah,
he did the Nixon "I'm not a crook" thing.
Yeah, I'm not a crook, like the Nixon thing. So
an innocent guy would totally be flat.
Flashy,
right?
It's sort of like it's you bucking the system and so forth, and it's also that it reminds me a little bit, to bring it back to boxing, it reminds me a little bit of Don King, because we have these American sort of icons that, you know, only made in America, you know, with the flags. Everybody, you know, not to throw DK underneath the bus, and if we ever get Jesse Reed in here, man, he's got some great Don King.
We gotta do it, man.
That you got these people in America that it's like everything about him smells of a crook, looks like a crook, is most likely a crook, but we're sort of like, oh yeah, he's okay. So Roger Stone. So you don't know him about that. You following anything about the governor, the story?
No, I learned that from you today.
Yeah. You want
to lay it on me, and then
we'll let Daniel
open up discussion for.
Yeah, you could probably pick it up from the internet.
What am I pulling up?
The governor and
governor who had a racist photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1 second. You guys can maybe start filling him in, and then I'll.
Yeah. So from what I know about it, he is a Democrat. You know. So, and I want to say in 1984, it was in a yearbook, in a college yearbook, that there was a photo of him and a friend. They don't know who's dressed up as who. One of them's in blackface, and the other one is dressed up as a Klansman.
Correct. So this was today, a few hours ago. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam is denying that he was in that photo. Excuse me. He does not believe he is either the person in the racist photo that appeared in the 1984 yearbook, but that he did once darken his skin to resemble Michael Jackson during a dance contest in 1984.
So sure.
Sounds like a weak
excuse.
When did Thriller come? When I think
1984.
Yeah, because I think of 1984 Olympics. I remember the Los Angeles Olympics.
It's a pretty weak excuse.
Yeah. It's a very weak. Yeah.
He should resign, and Democrats should be calling him out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. What is the
well, I mean,
response from his fellow Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously can't speak for Democrats. I don't think you can speak for Democrats. But you know, if we're looking to take, I
haven't been nominated for anything.
Yeah. But if we're looking to take somebody to task, certainly this guy should be taken for task.
Certainly.
Listen, people, when you're young, you're going to make just to be pragmatic and logical. You're going to make horrible decisions when you're young. And a lot of times you probably don't want to be faced with the decisions you were making. I don't know how old he was, 22, 21, 23. But as a young man. But that's also to say that this is something that we've heard your whole life, which is make sure you make the right decisions, because if you make the wrong decisions, they might affect your ability to
run for...
not even to run for office, but who you are in the future. So
There's a reason why there's a Modelo right there and not right here.
Right.
It's because I'm worried that when I run for president, I don't want to have the screenshot of that. As if that's bad, because Modelo's going to sponsor this show. Mark my words.
Yeah. So just if we're being very responsible.
No, but yeah.
I'm talking about like boxing.
Everything you do on social media needs to be remembered that this could be held against you someday.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
Act correctly.
If we're quite there,
but
it's.
I was afraid to.
You can't look the other way on this.
I was afraid to cuss on MySpace because I was worried that someday that would hurt me in my. Daniel will be the first one to say how timid and shy I'll be for any whatever. I have loosened up a little bit in the Snap story, Insta story era where it's gonna evaporate. So I'll.
You probably Edward Snowden would say likewise. Probably it's not evaporating. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I mean,
but
we're talking about
they can handle my fart jokes or whatever the heck it is. It's not.
But talking about him, I do think that he should step down, especially when you have Democrats that are calling their own to task, which they had.
You absolutely need to. If you need to,
Who's the from Senator or this from Minnesota? Oh, comedian from SNL. Oh gosh. Oh.
Al
Franken.
Al Franken.
Yeah. When you think about Al Franken and the demand during the Me Too thing and the demand for him to step down, and which he did, which I think was the right decision.
Yeah.
That you can't just be something that's biased.
The party cannot allow him to.
Yeah, they're gonna have to.
You got to bring him to task because if you expect to have any sort of
in 1974, 64, 54, 44, and so on, let alone 1984. If you don't know that you and your friend dressing up in blackface and somebody else dressing up as a Klansman is in poor taste, you certainly shouldn't be in office. I mean, that's just and that's about it.
Yeah, so, there's no argument of he was a young kid who made a stupid decision, but say that about I don't know certain getting in a fight or something, but
this is
if you think it's an okay decision at that point, you are.
This is
not ready to even put your name up to run for something.
And we're talking about the revered men of our country. I understand that and just that people are going to make mistakes, but this isn't one of those mistakes. So
what about the fact that it was in the yearbook?
Yeah. Right.
What school was this? What school?
Nobody. That's a very good observation. Could you imagine having that in a yearbook today? In the yearbook committee that was. Let's put this in there. So I couldn't.
Not to take any pressure off the governor, but the school should be taking a task for that kind of thing. I wonder what school this was. I mean,
Eastern Virginia Medical School yearbook.
Well, yeah, medical school too. Wow.
This is nerds. They had a yearbook. You're in medical school. Get over it. You're voting on superlatives of most likely to whatever.
There's two things to look at here, though. Never assume that just because somebody is in medical school that they're that smart. That's sort of like that they would make such a horrible
that you can still be
decision.
this much of an idiot.
Yeah, I think the only last thing that could talk about maybe going on pop culture that I noticed was the actor from Empire. You probably don't even know who he is.
I don't. I saw on Twitter
Smollett.
He got attacked by some guys wearing MAGA hats.
Yeah.
But I don't know enough of the story.
Yeah, we're sort of watching this thing sort of unravel. I think that that obviously the guy got attacked, and it sounds horrible. It doesn't seem that far fetched with whatever whatever happened. And most of all, you just want to make sure that whoever it is that they're okay. So I don't know a lot about the story. Either.
It's almost.
But when you hear something like this, it doesn't seem that far fetched, specifically with the
that tomorrow it could happen to somebody who's not famous, and it's gonna get swept under the rug. And that person's gonna end up in a worse situation.
Yeah, and this is a time where there's a polarization of politics, and there's a lot of hot-blooded things going on and so forth. And it makes sense that it doesn't sound crazy when you hear about something like that going on. So I can't. Besides that, the only other thing I can think of is
I think we should wrap this up.
That is cold.
It's cold here.
Yeah. In Chicago. So, but that's the only thing. But
yeah. So I think for first episode, we're gonna have more guests on in the future. We want to have fighters on. We want to have coaches on. We want to have people in the boxing business. Also, the name Boxed In. We don't necessarily have to have boxing only. It's
Yeah.
obviously a boxing theme show, but you could offer us suggestions of people you think you'd like to see as guests on the podcast. If you could do me a favor, I'd love you to sign up for my newsletter. I do a weekly boxing newsletter. It was kind of the genesis of this project. It's called Boxing TLDR. You can find the website boxingtldr.com and sign up for my newsletter there. And Trevor's been a writer on the website in the past.
Written a couple things.
Do you have any other call to actions? Anything you want to
plug your Instagram? Social media.
He doesn't have Instagram. He got banned. I am at no. He didn't.
Banned myself.
I am at Garrity McCosker, and on Twitter at Vulgarity, VOL, and then Garrity, 2 R's, 1 T.
It'll be in the description.
And you'll see it in the description.
Yeah, it'll be in the description. Yeah.
And I'm not very good at either one of them, but
if you need to ever get a hold of me, just get a hold of Garrity.
Yeah.
Imagine. So.
Yeah. Give us your suggestions. We'll put you on the show if we like you.
Yeah. See you next week.
Yeah. See you next week.
Right.
Thanks for tuning in.
That's it.